Hail and well met, and welcome to another rousing adventure.
Am I even on the right show?
Just thought I'd change things up a little bit. This is a Large Nerdron Collider. I'm Ariel Kristen Caston.
And I'm still Jonathan Angel Buns Strickland.
And today, we thought we'd pay a tribute to history.
Now, sadly, this does not mean I finally get to do my mashup of Ancient Greece plus Grease the Musical.
Nope, not this time. Today I thought we'd take a look at two popular television series, Showtime's The Tudors and the History Channel's The Vikings.
Now, Ariel, you and I have both, in the past, worked for the Georgia Renaissance Festival.
Yes, for many years we did that very thing.
And since we kinda lived this stuff, I was thinking, just this one time only, maybe, possibly, we could actually skip.
No. Okay, so The Vikings is this Canadian-Irish show on the History Channel that combines historical fact with dramatic fiction. It follows the story of Ragnar Lothbrok, who is an actual figure in Norse mythology. Now, in the Norse stories, Ragnar is this epic badass, but to everybody else, he's just kind of this bloodthirsty, raidery, nuisancey dick extraordinaire. The stories take place way back in the 8th century and mainly deal with him raiding northern England while dealing with possible treachery and backstabbery back at home.
Now, The Tudors is also a historical drama with a healthy dose of fiction. And The Vikings was a Canadian-Irish production, while The Tudors was an Irish-Canadian production.
What's the difference?
As far as I can tell, one of them just had more poutine on their craft services table.
Ugh.
Anyway, The Tudors follows the adventures of Henry VIII. King of England, King of France, King of Ireland, Defender of the Faith, yada yada yada. Well, it was a really healthy dose of fiction for this show because historical figures were combined into single characters, events were moved around, and some stuff was just plumb made up. Now, the show creator Michael Hurst said that his goal was always to just create a compelling soap opera, not necessarily a historically accurate epic.
Honestly, and it really kind of pains me to say this, I think we might have been more accurate historically at the Georgia Renaissance Festival.
True that. Well, let's find out what happens when the Vikings meet the Tudors for dinner.
With table goats.
I am going to take it upon myself to tell Her Majesty the Queen's favourite story of all time. 'Tis a historical tale about the Vikings. Now, have we heard about the Vikings?
Oh, a few times.
Now, you may have heard that these were large, hairy men who wore helmets with horns on them, and they terrorized everyone. I'm here to tell thee that is not correct. You see, the Vikings were the world's first humanitarians. They used to go on recreational, agricultural, industrial development sojourns, or raids for short. Now, on these raids, the Vikings would look for people who were worse off than themselves in order to help them. Case in point, one day a Viking crew was sailing across the sea when they see a small island. On that island is a tiny village, in the center of which is a hill. On top of that hill is a tiny hut, and next to the tiny hut is an enormous bell. Now, the Vikings look out at this village and they say, this poor village, it needs so much help. The captain says, in faith, the crops here are very sickly. What needs to happen is that we shall burn these crops down, use those ashes as fertilizer, fertilize the ground, and the crops will grow back even stronger next year. The Vikings say this is a wonderful idea, so they get out of their boat and they begin to burn down the crops. Now, the village elder sitting on top of that hill looks down and he sees these big hairy men have come to burn all his food. So he rings the bell 3 times. This summons up all the warriors of the village. The village elder says, "Chase these men away, for they are going to burn all that we have to eat." The villagers run down the hill, brandishing their weapons, screaming and shouting. The Vikings do not want any trouble, so they get into their boat and pull off to safety. These poor fools," says the Viking captain. "We shall try again once we get more supplies." So they sail away. Several months later, they sail back and they look at the island again, and now the crops are starting to grow. But still, there's much work to be done. The houses here are very poor indeed. They barely keep out the elements. They don't keep you warm, they don't keep you safe. So, says the Viking captain, we shall dismantle the houses and use that material to build new, stronger houses. So the Vikings get out and they begin to dismantle the homes. The village elder looks down and the big hairy men are back and now they're ripping apart the houses. So he rings the bell 3 times, summoning up all the warriors in the village and says, "Chase these men away or soon we shall have no place to live." The warriors run down the hill, screaming and brandishing their weapons. The Vikings do not want any trouble, so they get to their ship and pull away to safety. "Twice we have tried, twice we have failed," says the Viking captain, "but we shall not give up. We will try one more time. We will go and get more supplies in return." So they leave. Several months later, they come back, and they look at the village, and the crops are even stronger. They look healthier than ever, and they've rebuilt the houses, which look very warm and safe, but still, there's so much to be done. The Viking captain says, "Look at the children of this village. They are weak and sickly. What needs to happen is some circulation of the gene pool. Next," "You're right, we'll skip the next part. At any rate, the village elder looks down and says, 'Ha!' and rings the bell 3 times. The warriors run up the hill, and the village elder says, 'Ha!' The warriors agree, and so they run down the hill, brandishing their weapons and screaming. The Vikings do not want any trouble, so they get to their ship and pull away to safety. 'Thrice we have tried,' says the Viking captain. 'Thrice we have failed. Tomorrow morning upon high tide, we will sail away forever.'" And the Vikings sounded very sad. It sounded just like this. Aww. It was even sadder than that. That's about right. So they go to sleep. That same night, the village elder is thinking about what has happened over the past year. And he realizes that the crops that had burned down were growing back better than he ever remembered before. And the houses were now strong and sturdy and warm and kept you dry when it rained, something he had not seen in years. And let's say he had a basic grasp of heredity. At any rate, the more he thought about it, the more he realized the Vikings were trying to help them, not hurt them. But he had chased them away 3 times. How could he show that he now understood? He gathers all the women of the village, and he tells them to make their specialty, which, for reasons I know not on this particular island, were peach pies. So all night long they bake peach pies and they cover every inch of the beach in them. You cannot even see a square of sand, so many pies are there. The Vikings, when they wake up, take one last look at the island before sailing away forever and see a magnificent sight. Peach pies as far as the eye can see, and so the Vikings land the ship, crushing some peach pies in the process. You can't land a boat without crushing a few pies, that goes the old saying. But they got out, and they were prepared to have a big celebration when they heard the bell ring 3 times. They all looked up at the hill, and they see all the warriors are gathered. But they pick the bell up, run down the hill, and throw it into the ocean. And that, lords and ladies,
Bring it home, Admiral!
was the very first celebration of the No Bell Peach Pies. I would like to thank all of you for coming along with me on that journey.
Well, Ariel, I mean, you gotta admit, you brought this on yourself, and all of our viewers out there.
I am so sorry. But if you have any suggestions for mashups you'd like to see in the future, put them in the comments below.
That ancient Greek mythology and Greece musical mashup sounds pretty good right now, doesn't it? Also, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with all your friends. That'd be really awesome of you.
And we'll see you again soon. Fare thee well. Get it? Fare thee well.